the Reverend Bill Selazny, the minister at Channing Memorial Church. And I welcome you now to our Channing Memorial Church Sunday web service for August 30th. This is the last in our 10-week summer service series. We'll be taking a break next week, Sunday, September 6th, as we prepare for the fall services, which we will be offering on Zoom and YouTube Live. Information about the services will be coming out soon. We've all been trying our best to live under a new and challenging set of conditions. For most of us, this has required logically thinking and executing new plans and approaches to doing what used to be routine tasks. But as our guest preacher suggests in her homily today, there may also be a way to approach living with today's challenges that are not rigidly structured and potentially emotionally draining, but rather allow us to live into and through the qualities of grace and flow to guide our response. Our chalice lighting words today are inspired by the writings of Andrew Pakula. Let there be light, the light of joy, the light of happiness, the light of contentment. May it illuminate our paths and fill our lives with peace. But let there also be dark, for it is from dark places that we are brought forward, impelled toward growth. And as there needs to be a balance of both light and dark in our lives to make us complete people, so there must also be a balance of rational thought and planning and emotion in our lives to enable us to live completely. A balance of planning and going with the flow. It is with these thoughts about the need for balance and recognition that such balance gives us resilience that we light this chalice, the symbol of a faith that allows us to explore rational thought and emotive feelings. We begin each service with a prelude, a musical offering that gives us time to quiet our minds and prepare for the rest of the service. Today's prelude will be played by Janet Grant, the Channing Memorial Church music director. Our guest today is Jeanette Bessinger. Jeanette grew up in Channing Church. She is today an interfaith minister and a board-certified health coach and an award-winning educator and author of several books. Her perspectives on living a healthy lifestyle have been showcased in Consumers Report, The Washington Post, NPR, and NBC News. She's also a designer of a long-running hospital-based lifestyle change program and transformational workshop. She's been a guest presenter several times at Channing Church. I present to you Jeanette Bessinger.
Good morning. I recently saw this meme of it was captioned "Me preparing for 2020," and it's this guy in full body armor, and he's got this big sword, and there's this tiny slit for the eyes. And the second caption is 2020, And there's this long arrow protruding out from that tiny eye hole, the only part of him that wasn't covered, and it cracked me up a little bit. There's just no question that we're in a time of tremendous upheaval right now. The changes feel relentless. Again and again, expectations have been upended as our collective perspectives keep shifting. As we're being called to release and re-examine and adapt, it's natural to try to tame the chaos and restore some kind of order, or at least familiarity. We all do that in different ways, and it's a very human response to crazy times. But if we try to find our stability by tightening up and resisting the changes, we can really wear ourselves out. I find it useful to think of our lives as a kind of alchemical melding of the natural elements. All the rich stuff of earth mixed with the flowing energy of water to make the clay of our bodies. Fire to spark the life inside, and air to feed that life with our breath. Clay is malleable, but it's dense and it can be strong. It can grow and it can change, molding into new shapes to meet new challenges. But clay can also harden. As I've aged, I've noticed that parts of me have started to dry out a little bit. I definitely see it in my body, in wrinkles, new little wrinkles on my skin, in a new brittleness to my bones. But it can also show up in a hardening of ways, like when we dig in and stiffen against change. The risk of times like these is that they can become a kind of kiln, firing us to a brittle hardness. If we become fixed, like ceramic, it's so much easier to crack or even break apart when we bump up against something challenging or when we fall down hard. One of the ways to prevent this is to learn to stay more fluid, to allow a liquid flow to continue to moisten our clay so we can stay pliant, malleable, and adaptive, even in the toughest circumstances. To me, this is the essence of deep resilience, a kind of supple, flexible strength, a way to be ready to meet life in all of its unfolding forms. Before I talk about a few specific ways to generate the kind of flow that builds this kind of resilience, I want to make note of the fact that often, especially in our white business cultures, including the nonprofit world, resilience can actually be weaponized. Sometimes increasing individual resilience is encouraged within those structures and institutions so that workers can take on more demands and more responsibilities when personal resources are already stretched too thin. What I'm offering today is not about that, but rather about becoming more resilient so we can be more present to a greater bandwidth of life, so we can respond instead of react, even when we're under pressure. So we can be light on our feet, ready to take action or to make change when it's called for, instead of feeling worn out all the time or staying mired down and just stuck in old ways. One simple foundational way to stay resilient, to stay in flow, is to go vertical. Instead of focusing energy and attention on the horizontal of past and future, to try to stay present to what's happening right now, this very minute. Can you feel, for instance, right now what's supporting the weight of your body? Is it the floor under your feet? Or a chair under your seat? Can you feel that, the pressure of that? Can you feel it holding you? Can you feel the temperature of the air on your skin? It's just a slight shifting of focus. What can you hear in your space besides my voice? Is there a taste in your mouth? All of these are quick ways to come into the body, which is always in present moment. We can use spiritual tools like mindfulness and meditation to help us orient to this kind of presence. We can also work toward fully engaging in our actions in the moment, even with particular goals in mind, while actively detaching from any particular outcome. focusing more on the process, on the now, and less on the product or result in the future. We can still set our work on a trajectory, but keep it light, adaptable, to be ready for adjustments and for changes. One of the strategies that can help with that is to take smaller bites more frequently. In one way, I do actually mean that quite literally. It actually builds physical resilience to slow down our eating, to take smaller bites and to chew each one thoroughly. Eating that way allows the body's energy to be used for action rather than kind of pulled in for digestion, like after we eat a big meal. But I also mean this metaphorically. Many of the popular ways to condition ourselves and build stamina or strength, they're done in these big chunks. They're teased out from the regular daily flow of our life. Things like going for a run or working out in the morning, but then sitting still in front of various screens for 15 hours straight. Think about what would change if, instead of, or in addition to, one big separate chunk like a walk in the day, smaller doses of regular movement were mixed into the flow of a normally static day. I've always been an avid exerciser. It's part of what keeps me sane. It's part of what keeps me feeling good. But when I went through breast cancer treatment this past year, I wasn't able to keep doing my big workouts. The Dana-Farber fitness coach, she taught me to leave something in the tank for the hardest days. And this turned out to be one of my biggest personal lessons in resilience. One morning I was sitting outside on my deck. I was too tired to just even go up the stairs to my apartment. I sat and I watched the birds for about an hour. They were so busy. They did 1,000 different things, but not one of them ever looked like they were straining at all. After a while, I could literally feel the flow of their collective movements, like a current humming gently through the action. It was beautiful, like a dance. When I was finally able to get myself upstairs, instead of trying to tackle some big task, I just did a few little things as I moved around the apartment. The thought of cleaning the whole house was exhausting. It totally tanked me. But straightening up the living room table as I walked by, that was easy. Over time, I learned to work bigger activities into smaller increments that I could handle. And this turned out to be a lot easier psychologically too, because it took away my mental resistance to doing things when I felt so tired. But it also had the effect of keeping me more consistently in motion in small ways. And as I became more intentional about that, I found that I actually started to heal faster. As I felt better and better, I did a little bit more, but never to the point of fatigue at any one time. It turned out that that was key, kind of staying under my window of getting completely depleted. I started leaving simple props in strategic places. And my purple exercise band, I hung it over the doorknob to my bedroom. And when I walked by it, I would do some of my shoulder exercises for my physical therapist. Or I would leave a set of sneakers at the top of the stairs to remind me when I went down to get the mail to do, one extra set of stairs at the time. So at bedtime, I still felt tired, but I wasn't totally exhausted anymore. And I did my cleaning tasks in the same way, in regular small doses throughout the day, and my house stayed tidy pretty much all the time. I learned that there's a kind of balance that's inherent in flow. Oftentimes, resilience is about rebalancing a state of imbalance with an opposing action, like building movement into extended sitting times. Or when we spend hours staring at screens, it builds resilience to occasionally stretch out of that by regularly focusing your eyes on something distant, the horizon if you can see it, or the sky. If we're inside too much, it can build resilience to get outside. And spending time in nature is profoundly restorative in and of itself, whether that's feeling the grass with your bare feet or going forest bathing on a long walk in Weedamoo Woods. Nature is naturally calming to our nervous systems. And learning to settle a jangled nervous system is another core principle of resilience. In these times of quarantines and closures, it may not be possible for you right now to find restfulness in calming spaces the way that you used to, in church sanctuaries or yoga studios or even gathering in the homes of friends. Again, it's possible to use that same principle of small bites to settle jangled nerves. You don't have to go to any particular place. You don't need a whole yoga session or a choir practice. Just feeling your feet solid on the ground, or even sometimes rocking gently while you watch TV or while you talk on the phone. This can be very soothing and calming. Humming or singing while you go about your chores can help you discharge anxious energy without stepping away from your tasks at all. It's just built right in. Physical touch is another thing that can be deeply grounding. If you're able, you can actually give yourself a quick, soothing mini massage anytime at all. A few of my favorite tricks for calming anxiety, and these come from traditional Chinese medicine. The meridians, the energy meridians that flow through our body, the end points of some of these can be held or tapped to help release pent or stored up stress. So this, what I'm doing right now, holding my finger, and I'm holding it pretty firmly, the forefinger, can be very settling. It just takes a few minutes, and you can do it under a table if you don't want anyone to see you doing it. And another one, there's a point between the two tendons, your ring finger and your pinky finger, running between those tendons, there's a point of release there, and it's usually a little bit tender. Yep, that's it, right there. And you can massage that or even tap it, and this works on either hand, doesn't matter. But that can help you settle. The last thing I'll offer is an actual massage, and I like to do this one on my arms from the neck all the way down to the ends of my fingers. And sometimes, if I'm really triggered, I might need to tap, be very firm about it, or I could even squeeze. And you'll notice that you're starting to settle if you take a deep breath, or maybe a yawn comes, your eyes can water. This all means that you're taking your nervous system down in these gentle ways. As our nervous system settles, it then becomes easier to rest more deeply. Finding effective ways to rest and renew profoundly builds resilience. You want to watch the quality of your resting activities, though. Truly restful actions will calm your nervous system, or they'll actually replenish or rebuild your energy. Distraction is not the same as rest. So there's nothing wrong with distracting when you need to. Just don't mistake that for restoration. Distraction is more like a timeout from the stimulation, but it's not going to be something that brings you back into balance. To come back into balance, you need that opposing action, and it needs to be intentional. As we consciously and regularly soothe our systems and begin to rest more deeply, it becomes easier to be more present to all the moments of our lives, more vertical. Stillness and steadiness is not the absence of movement. It's about becoming truly present. When we're able to be more fully present, we have easier access to a kind of spontaneous gratitude, even in times of very great strife. Presence creates a quality of spaciousness that naturally unlocks grace. A place where there's room to see and feel the blessings of strong hands or a strong mind or body, even when our day is so painful. We can remember that there's still joy in the world, even in the midst of great sadness. With resilience, spaciousness, flow, we know that we are not the passing weather of our chaotic experiences, but the vast open sky in which those experiences come and go in the dance of our everyday lives. May you feel as expansive as the sky.
Spirit of Life is one of the favorite songs of this congregation. As we bring this service to a close, I invite you to sing or hum or dance or sway or just sit quietly and enjoy this very traditional piece of music, Spirit of Life. I have just a few final words as we close our summer service series. If you like our summer services and are not a pledging member of the congregation, I would hope that you would find it within your means to make a contribution to Channing Church to help cover our ongoing costs for providing worship services. A check can be sent to Channing Memorial Church, 135 Pelham Street, Newport, Rhode Island, 02840. These services could not have been possible without the help of several people. My thanks to Jeff Thomas and John Burnham for the hours of technical support they volunteered, and to Janet Grant, who worked hard to meet the challenges of finding appropriate music and observing broadcast copyright issues as she prepared the music for these past 10 weeks. Thank you, everyone. Now, in closing, may we plan and prepare when necessary to get things done. May we let the grace of life move through us also, so that with both mind and heart we may face the many challenges of our days and receive the great gift of living fully into our lives. So be it. Amen.